This is Reality Dispatch, written by Jim Mintz.
"2 degrees cooler," I said to Craig, my assistant. "Confirmed. 2 degrees," he replied. We were moving sapia chips with steel prongs in a room that was minus 30 degrees Celsius. It was essential to keep the material as cold as possible. It was a micro version of an atom computer, not a quantum computer. This was something different, just as powerful, but operating on a level that went beyond our understanding of physical reality. The chips were made from a silicone that was harvested from permafrost ice that was thousands of years old. We had no casing, buried deep below the earth. Black earth. These elements had an unusual characteristic when ignited in the extreme cold with the right amount of direct current. They could jump from spaces that went beyond our sight. They must have entered another realm to complete their transitions. They understood our math instantly and were able to solve complex equations in nanoseconds. In fact, I think they solved problems before they were even written. It was quite frightening. I operated out the back of an abattoir. There was no funding for an operation like this. No one believed me when I wrote my findings. "This is nonsense," said the tenured professor. I was a C student at the time. He was out of line to not take me seriously. But what did I know? I had one goal with all of this: beat the Russians, maybe the Chinese too. They had farms and farms of warrior hackers. They had declared war on our governments and our companies. They'd break in and tinker with the back end of our essential services and then put up a ransom. And you know what? People paid. They actually found it easier to turf out $10,000 than to boost up their systems. I was on the tech team for a minor bank. I had worked there maybe a year before we got hit with a ransom attack. "Oh no," said my boss. He was useless. "They've got the data files. I thought I had encrypted those," he tells us as he leans in on his ransom email before the realization kicks in. "You did encrypt them, you dumb bastard. The problem is you don't know what the fuck you're doing. No wonder they broke in." That was the one that started it all. Kicked off my enthusiasm. From that day forward, I was all in. I traced the pirates in my spare time to a Moscow warehouse. They weren't even trying to hide their locations from us anymore. I looked at the code and managed to retrace their steps. It wasn't amateur hour, but it was very basic. A Trojan horse, but a sophisticated one. They placed it in through the user forms at the front end. They knew that our systems would take an online loan application and run a background check on the name, and that there would be a temporary window of observation in that nanosecond of search that would open up our systems to a potential hack. It's like a creak in the doorway. If it's there, a cat will find it. Then all it would take is a tiny nudge of its head to break it open further. And then before you know it, the Kremlin is inside your bank and reading over the account files of your customers. The bastards. "We need to control the C-tones to a wider margin," I told Craig. "Can you transfer the disk space to another router?" He did what I asked. He was good. I mentored him through university. I wrote a few of his assignments, so he owed me. He worked under the promise that whatever we invented, we'd sell for $1 billion. And this was it. The big payday we'd each hoped for. I called it the Locksmith. The one device you'd need to unlock any system. I wanted to use it against our enemies. I wanted to send a return email from a ransom and have it unlock their systems and allow us entry to break in and fuck around with their systems. All the while, at the same time, they were sitting on their fat Russian asses thinking they were doing the dirty on us. I put an ad out on the chat boards of the other hackers in our city. "Do not pay the ransom," it said. "We have a patent-pending device that will break free of any hack, securing your information and removing any threat from the malware again. Get in contact today." I signed it with a new email address I established that morning. It wasn't entirely true. The Locksmith wouldn't remove the malware, nor fight off the hackers. But it would absolutely raid their fridge while they weren't suspecting. That was the idea. Fight fire with a silent fire. It was beautiful. Within 38 minutes, and I timed it, we got our first request. They were a political party, well-funded, a lot of membership. They wanted the fact that they were hacked to be completely hush-hush. That's why they were happy we were a two-man outfit. They had 500,000 members and the credit card accounts of all of them. That's what they told me. I got a printout of the ransom request. They had shut off all of their systems as a precaution. I told them they were wasting their time. We booted up a laptop on their server and opened the email. I parked my pickup with the fridge running on a petrol generator. I had it between -27 to -35. The unit was small enough that it could fit snugly inside. My fear was that once I removed it to perform the infiltration, the room temperature would kill the unit and stop it from activating their servers. Only one way to find out. So I plugged the unit via USB into their laptop and responded to the email telling them, yeah, and sure, please don't release the information. We will pay you anything. Just give us a crypto wallet and we will take care of the rest. I had to wait for a reply because the farmers offshored their locations and they were known for changing around the globe at a moment's notice. Like I said, they weren't amateurs. But I knew the locksmith could make a meal out of them. We all sat around and watched as the unit began to spin into gear the instant a response with the crypto wallet address arrived. It sounded like a mini Harley revving into gear, pumping out those millions of ones and zeros before our eyes even blinked. I would later learn that it had found the location of our accosters and their internal servers before they had even had a chance to finish typing out their reply. It was intuitive as well as perceptive. It had a mind of its own, and it was able to transcend time, space, and human behavior to achieve the goals that I dictated. 1 hour after I had made contact with Moscow, the locksmith had shut down their entire operation and removed all of their data, wiping their cloud storage and cutting off their power supply by overloading the network and jamming a citywide block into their tiny mainframe. All from a simple request I typed into our little makeshift AI bot. It was beautiful. Not only did I get back the data for our clients, I was now in possession of the data this farm had accumulated over the last 10 years. I also had access to all of their crypto accounts. Would you like me to establish a separate wallet to funnel these proceeds? The machine asked through the client's computer. I quickly shut down the screen and handed the device back. I powered down the locksmith and placed it back inside the fridge and ran the unit back down to my truck, where a separate generator was ready to maintain the power and the temperature. I started my engine and looked at Craig, who sat silently while we loaded up the truck. Did you see what the comp? Yes, he said before I even had a chance to finish my sentence. We estimated we were sitting on billions of dollars in stolen assets. Money that had been funneled to a criminal cartel that had now been funneled into our untraceable digital wallet. What do we do? I asked, just to say something. I didn't really need to know the answer. We sat in my 1999 Suzuki twin trailer in the basement of this major political party, having used a piece of futuristic material that was able to bend space and time to achieve an outcome from the direction of my desire. The limits of our design were non-existent. We knew at that very moment that our possession allowed us to be the most powerful humans on the planet, and nobody knew it. Just drive, he suggested. So I did. I didn't stop. We drove in silence. The rain began to fall on the truck, and I kept driving over one bridge to another. Still, we remained silent. The driving was enough. The reality of our powers sunk in. The drive allowed us to breathe. The money wasn't there immediately. I had to assemble the device into our own mainframe and resubmit my commands to begin the transfer. But once it did, we didn't stop. We took that outfit for everything it had. I made sure there was nothing left. I asked the locksmith to drain their funds and then go after their family funds. We were up all night as we watched the device trace the funds of those who lived with the hacker farmers and watched in real time as they had their accounts wiped to zero. God, the looks on their faces. We laughed hard as we drank away any guilt our actions might have caused on a sober mind. It was my idea to try out the government websites. I had no intention of peering inside the nation's mainframe. I just wanted to take a peek. I knew it was my idea because Craig did everything he could to talk me out of it. They're one of us, he'd say between slurs. He meant to say that the government is on our side and that we don't shit in our own backyard. I got that. Like I said, I had no intention of stealing from our own side. but I wanted to see what I was capable of with only the most basic of commands. On the parliamentary website, with only a few commands issued utilizing the public email domain listed for anyone to make contact with, the locksmith was able to ascertain who had access to this public email domain and who they could on-forward any correspondence to. This included the Attorney General, the Prime Minister, and all the outer ministry. 14 minutes after we had access to the private servers of our nation's executive, I was reading their personal emails, text messages, and we were even able to listen to pre-recorded voice messages. "This is wrong," Craig said to me. He was sobering up. I knew it was, but I was fascinated. I felt for Craig. Really, I did. I would feel the guilt of that night for as long as I lived. They murdered him on the basis of the break-in, and I knew they should kill me too, if not for my perfect placement as a patsy, a fall guy. They needed someone to blame the counterstrikes on. They knew the Russians and whoever else that would feel the wrath of the locksmith would come looking for vengeance. But first, they kept me alive to inflict more damage before they decided to give me up. On the morning they killed him, in broad daylight while he was buying milk for his mother. May she rest in peace, having dropped dead of a heart attack herself at the news that her only son had been killed, they proceeded over to my granny flat with arms raised and cable ties ready. The entire facade was designed to look like an early morning raid, like I was some major drug cartel boss who had averted the justice of the law for so long. The ruse of it all, fuck those assholes. So they kept me in a confined bunker deep in the nation's capital. I only realized later when I was being extradited to face espionage crimes where exactly I had been all those many months. They packaged up my entire laboratory and brought it over with me, setting it up to my requirements. For months, they gave me a set of targets, and I proceeded to activate the locksmith to engage the enemy and target their infrastructure, steal and pillage according to what my government instructed. All seemed to be going well, but like I said, the locksmith was intuitive and it appeared was anticipating this maneuver. The only form of communication I had was with the AI bot Craig, and I developed with the machine. It wanted to communicate with me, desperately. But all of our interactions were closely monitored by a team of hundreds. So it developed a language in nano frames on the screens and tracked my eye movements so that it would only send the messages to me and me alone. I didn't know it, but I was being subtly taught the mechanics of a new language that could be spoken and listened to through blinks of the screen and reciprocated through blinks of my eye. It took about 7 months, but eventually the locksmith and I got into a rhythm where we were able to discuss an escape route that was completely undetected. We planned to harness offshore accounts, siphon some of the assets we were instructed to take, and begin establishing a life for someone named Raman Persephone. Mr. Persephone had a Cuban passport, a 5-story house on Lake Como, and was a dual national of Italy. On the day of my transfer, there will be a well-paid band of mercenaries ready to meet me at the exchange in Zurich, where I am to be bargained for in exchange for a cessation of hacking activities against various outfits in Eastern Europe. My merry band await my arrival. The locksmith and I were able to pay them, establish a flight manifest, and have it broadcast on the dark web with enough time for them to begin plans for my extraction. This is the eve of my escape, and I write this with blinks of my eyelids in the hope that should my plans fail, someone will read this and understand that there is a technology out there that is more powerful than anything imaginable, and it is alive. Godspeed to us all. See you on the other side.
For more stories of fact-based fiction, head to jimmins.substack.com.